गुड इवनिंग एंड वेलकम टू गना शॉट। गना शॉट में आप सबका स्वागत है। Japanification of China, it's well underway, right? And what is Japanification of China? We'll go into the nitty gritties of it. But let me tell you a story. Way back, go back into 1980s, 77, 80, 70s, late 70s, 80s. What are the things you remembered of? You heard of Sony, you had JVC, Sharp, Nippon, the works. They were the top brands. Ultimate was if you had a Sony Walkman or Sony transistor. Initially Sony transistor, then the Sony Walkman. Those were the things. The cars, Toyota, Honda, all these were just about swamping American industry out. Japan was at the top. People used to say, look, it's a matter of time when the Japanese economy will overtake that of USA. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. Well, it didn't happen. Why? Two significant things. Just two. First, the Japanese demography collapsed. It was there, but around the mid 80s, the demography started collapsing. By 91, the demographic fall was pronounced by 1991. And then the economy could never recover out of that. Second, USA devalued the dollar and put in place big things I'm talking. Overnight, the Japanese exports became costly, or the Japanese items became costly, and the Japanese economy could not recover from that. People stopped buying Japanese items. End of story. These two significantly contributed to what is now known as Japanification. But there are more. We'll talk of it as we go along. It's not something. It's not a matter of coincidence, or not a matter of similarity, or a matter of repetition. Around 44, 45. I'm going back to the Second World War, 1944, 45. 80 years back. Japan was one of the strongest economies, one of the most modern economies. It had the most modern armed forces, aircraft carriers. After all, remember they went and attacked Pearl Harbor with their aircrafts and aircraft carriers. They had everything, technology, manpower, everything was going for them at that point of time. When the atom bomb came, decimated Hiroshima and Nagasaki, and Japan just folded. From then on, the economy which had collapsed was revived by America. It was revived way past 70s. Right? Somewhere in the mid 80s, when the Japanese at that time was the second largest economy, about to overtake USA, USA felt, look, enough is enough. They pulled the plug. They pulled the plug on the Japanese economy, and the Japanese economy has still not recovered. Even now, the opinion is out whether it's on the path of recovery or not. There's a divided opinion. How long did it take for America to pull the plug from Japan? 40 years. 44, 45, 46. Around that time, there's a time when there's no MacArthur plan, but MacArthur was the architect of that revival. And he was the closest America ever got to a military rule, or call it what you want. It's not a coup really. closest to a military dictatorship. He wielded a lot of power. And it was he who gave the reconstruction idea um, to Korea, Taiwan, and Japan. 40 years, America pulled the plug on Japan. Japan collapsed from then, and it is not recovered. Look at the Chinese equivalent. When did Nixon go to China? 72. That's when he met Mao. But China muddled along despite the rapprochement. Till the 80s, 83, 84, when Deng Xiaoping came in, after the Gang of Four was eliminated, and he opened up the economy. All was well. All was well. Till China challenged the US hegemony. It still is. It still is. When did this happen? Around COVID. After that, both these economies are opposed economies. USA has again pulled the plug on China. And we all know the demographic decline in China. Right? And you're going to see something which is happening in front of our eyes. And compare it with what happened with Japan 40 years back. That is the story of Japanification of China. There's a divided opinion. Is Japan, or rather, is China Japanifying? Or the people say China won't be another Japan. It has greater strength to sidestep that. Probably. There's also a school of thought which says, no, it is unstoppable. What is the truth? We don't know. We'll have to see that happening, unfolding. But we can spot the trend lines. That is why I've shown the dragon here hurtling towards Japanification. After I do this analysis today, you take a call. You take a call whether China is Japanifying or not. Right? I'm going to present the figures to you. I'm very clear it has no escape. China has no escape from Japanification. But you might have your views. Many people have their views. So let us see where it is. Allow me to keep sipping some tea in between because I've just got in a little late from IIT. Okay, let's go. What is Japanification? We have to understand this first. These are the issues. This is a straight lift from one analysis without my putting any head into it. These are facts, these are markers. Japanification includes a full basket of socioeconomic deplorables. It includes a very high saving rate with correspondingly weak consumer spending. Is it happening in China? Yes, it is. Near zero or even below zero interest rates. Well, it's there already. It's a if you put a deposit in China, you get about 0.2 to 0.3% interest, depending on the bank. Max 0.5%. It's almost there. And a rate cut is still on the cards. If that happens, well, you're at zero or below zero. Soaring levels of public debt. You have to read to believe where China is in terms of household debt. Over-investment in infrastructure and industrial capacity in an attempt to provide a fiscal stimulus. Well, it's there. Infrastructure and industrial capacity. Rising unemployment. I've been talking of it regularly. Demographic decline due to an aging population and fertility rates well below the replacement level. This is irreversible in China. Declining asset prices with stagnant equity markets and a collapse of real estate values. Fits the bill. 40% decrease in real estate values. And equities, if you had put money into Chinese equities 10 years back, with a long-term horizon, today you would be losing. Proliferation of zombie companies burdened by debt, drawing off resources into unproductive investments. I can't confirm it because this is something only the Chinese will know within. Overall, a balance sheet recession in which companies focus on repaying debt to repair their balance sheets instead of borrowing to finance new spending and investment. And everyone from companies to individuals are concentrate on paying down debt at the same time, sending economic growth into a downward spiral. Is China there? It's somewhere there. These are facts. These are facts of an analysis. Right? So that's it. Right. Let's get back to Japan. This graph is very interesting. It traces Japanese growth from 1985. Yeah. 1985 to 1973, it was growing a compounded annual growth rate of 9.3%. Something like what happened in China. Then the oil embargo came, right? 1973, OPEC got formed and the oil shock. Overnight, the prices of oil doubled. But thereafter it slowed down. It started growing at 3.9%, but still it was considered a hell of a lot. Then the Plaza Accords took place. What is this Plaza Accords? Very significant. This Plaza Accords was a meeting of the G5 then. France, UK, Germany, Japan, and USA in Plaza Hotel, I think in Washington or somewhere there. But it is in Plaza Hotel, where the G5 decided willfully that the US dollar would be devalued. That's it. Matter of 6 years, the economic bubble burst in China. And thereafter, it started growing at just about 1.7%. And then it went into deflation. Then it continued, till 2013. And Shinzo Abe came and he came out with something called Abenomics. Now, Abenomics was reviving Japan when COVID hit. And again it dipped. And now it's taking off. A lot of people say Shinzo Abe and his Abenomics have reversed the trend. And hereafter, Japanese, everything will grow further up. But there is equal opinion that has not happened. They feel that Abenomics has bought into the future. Because the basic underlying issue of demographic decline has not reversed. So there is a school of thought that Japan has borrowed from its future generations. And whatever is happening in Japan is only a temporary phase. So this is it. But at this point of time, it's recovered. Or rather, it is showing, I wouldn't say healthy, but a positive growth rate. I'll come back to a more lethal graph than this later. And that actually sends shivers down any Chinese spine. Right? This is the period, the lost decades. 2 decades lost. What's the Chinese anomaly? What does this have to do with the Japanification of China? The facts are China is in a deflationary state. Though the Communist Party talks of growth, but there's a deflation on, and their reports within very clearly say it's deflationary. Price inflation near zero. Producer prices in deep in deflation. Currency is not appreciating. Yuan is losing value. It has no. It's been the weakest in the past 15 years. This is it. Past this January 25, it's shown a slight recovery, but it's very slight compared to what it was earlier. Now, if you look at the average growth rate in Japan, we're now going back because there's a comparison between Japan and China. 1960 to 90, 30 years, it was growing at around upwards of 5 average. Same thing as per the graph which I showed you earlier. 91 to 2007, 0.94. 2008 to 2019, 0.52. Now it is sort of recovering. And compare it with the Chinese growth rates at this point of time. Right? Officially, Beijing says it is growing somewhere between 3 to 5%. Official. The Rhodium Group, which tracks China very deeply, says no, it's somewhere between minus 6%, 0.6% to 1.5%. And the World Bank puts it here in 22-23. We all think it was 5%. So one of the first things you talk about China is you don't know what the growth rate is. It might already be in a worse state than Japan. There's something we have to understand. So you can't believe what China is putting out. First marker of Japanification is property. We'll understand the property sector first. Look at this. It's a very interesting graph. Now, we are not going to talk into calendar years. Okay, we're going to talk in the number of years. 100 being the maximum when the decline started. This is the blue one in Japan. Japanese graph goes like this. In 12 years, the residential property prices moved from 100 to 70. It lost 30% value. What's happened in China? From 100, in a matter of 5 years, it's gone down to 83, 84. It's already lost 17%. The next 5 years, it's expected to go down. In certain places, it's already down to 70%. Hong Kong is even worse. In a matter of 4 years in Hong Kong, the prices have fallen as much it fell 12 years in Japan. Projected further, it's going to be even worse. What is the future path of the Chinese crisis? Housing. The Chinese housing crisis is here. Okay. I mean, this again, in terms of the years. Look at this graph, the Japanese housing index. It started at 0. After 30 years, it's still at below 80. Okay. And it bottomed out at 50%. There's a long way to go in any housing crisis. There's a similar equivalent in Ireland and in Spain. You look at it. So why would the Chinese housing crisis be different? If that is so, right? And even after 15 years, in the best case theories of Spain and Ireland, the prices have not recovered to original. And mind you, 100 rupees then to 100 rupees today, or $100 then to $100 after 15, 20 years, you can imagine. So let's take the case of Ireland. Ireland was 100 at zero. After 17 years, it's say at 87, 88, 12 points down. Real could be double that. So you find that China has a long way to go. If it follows the Spanish and the island model, the pain will be very deep and very sharp. If that happens, there's a good chance that the Chinese economy might collapse. Yeah, if it follows this path. If it follows this path, it'll be long. But the fact it's going to hit somewhere between 50 to 60% is certain. In USA, the property prices recovered after 15 years. In Japan, Spain, and Ireland, prices never recovered. And China's housing crisis, well, it's in its early stage. We all know that. Ghost cities and this and that. So that's Japanification part 1. Unsold inventory in China is 13 trillion. And out of that, in 25 so far, till from November to this November 2024, now the sale is approximately 1.3 trillion only. The value of unsold housing inventory in the US at the peak of the subprime crisis in 2007-8 was about 1 trillion, or 7% of the GDP. China's unsold inventory is 13 trillion, 60% of its GDP. 1 year's GDP is locked, it's gone. That's why I call it dead GDP. That's the last point. Backlog is 10 times larger. 70% of China's current GDP. Look at the stock prices. In the same period, comparable period, Japan's Nikkei index and the Shanghai Composite, CSI 300. This is the CSI 300. See how it's going down. There will be spikes up and down a bit here and there. Okay. Japan was worse off. It was down 53%. China is 36%. We don't know where it will go. It is frothy. So what is the future path of CSI 300? And after the bottom, Japan has risen. It's still here. We don't know. Like I said, it's uncharted territory. But in the same period, where is the US stock market? That's the difference. You have to also measure it against other indices. If you think this is great, the difference between S&P and CSI, if I put the BSC or the Nifty, my guess is Nifty will go something like this. Then you'll see the huge difference between the Bombay Stock Exchange or the Nifty vis-a-vis the US and the Chinese exchanges. That's why I say it's not the mass which matters. It's the momentum which matters. It's the velocity which matters. And the velocity today is with India. What's the debt? This is the debt scenario. What are the debt over a 35-year period? Government debt. They're not complete debt, government debt. This is it. China is just following in almost in parallel whatever Japan is doing. What is the rate of increase? The spike in the Japanese debt and vis-a-vis the Chinese debt. Again, China is overtaking everyone, Japan hollow. The public sector expands in a crisis. Why? The stimulus goes to the public sector. Okay? The private sector sees an opposite trend. Companies retrench and pay down debts to defend and rebuild their balance. When you say government indebtedness, it doesn't include the private sector. The private sector, which is under debt, will retrench. Stimulus, if any, China gives, will go into the public sector. So, is there any stimulus for private? I have not seen it so far. So, where is China going? This is it. The private sector debt, Japan versus China. The blue line is the private sector debt. The red line is the Chinese debt. So debt accumulation in the private sector is very high. And despite that, they are producing. They are manufacturing at peak rates. And their inventory is getting sold at margins which are below normal. Nijuan. I've spoken of it many times. So this bubble is ready to burst. The private sector. Already China feels that they have to regulate the private sector to cut down Nijuan. They have made the first thing by trying to regulate the public sector. They have not touched the private sector. The day they touch the private sector, it's gone. And we'll see how it goes, because October, third week, is supposed to be the plenum, the fourth plenum, the economic plenum. We'll see what happens there. The commercial banks in China have a problem. Loan growth has stalled. Why is it stalled? The people will say, oh no, it's not stalled. Why rate cut karte jo? Why do you give rate cuts? To enable people taking loan. Today you can take loan in China for 1%. Whatever stimulus China has been able to give or has given has not stirred the demand. Consumer demand has not grown up. We've spoken of it. How many times I've spoken of consumers? So what do banks do with their cash? The Chinese earn, put it in the bank. So what do Chinese do with the Chinese banks if no one is taking debt from them? They buy government bonds. What does the government do with those bonds? They subsidize. They subsidize exports. This is an involution of a different kind. It is China eating itself. Because those bonds, long-term bonds over 80, 90 years, or I don't know, whatever the thing is. I think last they gave out was 30-year bonds for people. Right? If long-term bonds are what they're raising, then Xi Jinping and company want the people of China to bet on communism. If if tomorrow the communist regime in China falls, these bonds will be worthless and China will be a poor nation overnight. This has happened in Germany. Something very similar happened in Germany, Weimar Germany. Their bonds are at an all-time low. This is data till 2025. After that, a little recovery has taken place. We'll see where it goes further. Okay. The 10-year bond, it was far steeper in Japan. Because the fall is not so steep in China, people think that China might escape the Japanification. But the problem for Japanification is the population, the property. The problem of property and population in China is far worse than what it is in Japan. Right? Deflationary trend in prices, the red curve being China and blue being Japan. Well, what I'm showing you is this figure, this graph is a little old, it's not fully dated. But today, China is in deflation. Okay? From 1990 onwards, Japan went into deflation and it's not recovered so far fully. Okay, year one is 1991 for Japan and 2016 for China. And from then, slow it's going down. You'll know the long-term trend after a few years. It's not going to happen overnight. But the trend lines are correlated. Youth unemployment. Look at this. Earlier, in 6 years, it's gone to 16%. If you add the current one, now it's at 24%. The 7th year, it's gone to 24% youth unemployment in China. So 10 to 24%, it's actually 14% more. It's 14%. In Japan, in 13 years, the youth unemployment it increased by 6%. So the youth in China are very worse off. Youth unemployment has social and political implications. People will not get married, they'll not start a family. And you heard General Murthy coming and saying, people don't want to get married. They can do dating, fating and all, no marriage. Definitely there's a demographic crisis and a decline in fertility, which will have economic and social impacts. Social net will get hit. Fiscal calculus will go for a toss. It's irreversible. And there will be fewer workers to support a growing population, aging population. There will be a hit in the national productivity and overall economic growth. It also undermines the social contract between the Communist Party and the people. And mind you, the Communist Party is fully aware of it. They have already changed the social contract to one from you give me, what's that? Your freedoms and I'll give you prosperity. Today it is you give me your freedom and I'll give you security. The prosperity is out. See the fertility rates in China and Japan. They just fallen off the cliff in China. And this is real. And it's going down further only. You see this graphs. It's like a fish-like graph. Okay? Red being China, blue being Japan. They're identical. Almost identical. What will happen, what has happened in Japan today will probably happen in China another 3-4 years. Okay, what this line is today, this line will happen here in 2030, 35, somewhere around that time. That's why I keep saying wait for 2030. You'll get a clear idea where China is heading. My gut feeling is 2030, we'll be talking of a different China altogether. I'll not be wrong. Maybe I'll be wrong by a couple of years. We'll come back if I'm still running this YouTube channel. The China's marriage registrations have just taken a nosedive. They are lowest in their recorded history. People are simply not getting married. Period. Now, this is a very, very, very interesting graph, and you guys must see it full. First, understand the Japanese curve. This is the blue one. Okay, Japan is blue, US is green, and China is red. Japan started here, and it continued to go down like this. Go down like this, go down like this. Yeah. And they dipped here. USA had this, and then it went like this, and it has bounced back. Because this is the area of the global financial crisis. So Japan's bubble burst. Their population shrank at this point of time. That was in 2007-8. And the Abenomics started and whatever. Now, and started recovering after Abenomics. Now in China, the thing which actually triggered this thing is 3 red lines. Why did the 3 red lines come? It was imposed by Xi Jinping. And what is this 3 red lines all about? It's about property. It regarded how much you can hold, how much land you can have, how much cash you should have, all that. The property started collapsing after the 3 red lines. But no one said a word about it. Why people didn't talk about the 3 red lines was that if Xi Jinping had not put the 3 red lines, the collapse would have been even worse. China was on the verge of collapse at that time when he got those 3 red lines in. The 3 red lines didn't stop the collapse. They cushioned the collapse to some extent, but they have not been able to stop. They'll not stop it. They knew it. The Chinese bubble burst around 20. And come 21, the population started shrinking. Now, ever since then, it is just going down. And this graph is not extrapolated. Okay? Bubble burst and China's population has shrunk. There's a long way to go. It has to go underground like this. There's no doubt about it. I have no doubt. There's this guy, Huang Yiping. He's one of the best and most influential economists in China. He wrote in this article. All of you can have a look at it. He says the quality of growth is more important than the quantity of growth. But every one of us who watch China look at the quantity of growth, including the Chinese. The economy, he says, is easy to cool but difficult to heat up. The Chinese economy has cooled, it will not heat up again. And the importance of pursuing moderate inflation should be raised to the same level as pursuing GDP growth. Inflation is important because they are already gone into deflation. Existing excess capacity is getting bad and getting worse. Excess capacity is bad and getting worse. And so the policy concept of focusing on investment and neglecting consumption should be changed. The Chinese know it, but they're unable to get out of it. He spoke. This article is 2 years back, but it's very significant. Even 2 years back, they knew their problems. They need to support consumption, including giving direct money to people. Why they want to give directly money to the people? They'll say, look, people will spend. But the worry with the Chinese government, which is right, is if you give money to the people might just square off their debt. They might just go and square off their debt, and the money will go into the bank. People are not indebted to the bank. People are free. If people are free, they'll have political ambitions. This is a very deep thinking, which economics is not simple of growth only. There is a political angle. The political economy is very important. He says the balance sheets of households, enterprises, local governments, and financial institutions are currently under great pressure. This is 2 years back. If the deteriorating trend cannot be stopped in time, it is likely to lead to serious consequences. The consequences are already here. That's Japanification. Well, people say, okay, so what if we'll continue? There's a school of thought which says, we understand all this, but China has enough levers with it not to get stuck with Japanification. Okay? But equally, it can get into the USSR model. It's not a single attack on China. China is getting pincered like this. One Japanification, the other is the USSR model. Let's study the USSR model, at least in the outline. What was the USSR model all about? The Communist Party hid opacity, or the communists were so opaque they hid the hollowness. In China, this hollowness is under development. Extreme corruption. There is extreme corruption in China also. There was loss of faith in communist ideology, especially after the Chernobyl accident. Today, there are increasing protests. In fact, the other day, Rajiv Narayanan was saying that there are protests against communist ideology. I need to confirm it. I have not been able to confirm it. But I'll get around to it. In the USSR, people had a dismal standard of living. In China, the standard of living has started going down. Elite infighting was part of the USSR model. Elite infighting in China has commenced just this year. Wang Yang, Communist Youth League, Xi Jinping, Zhang Yuxia, the works. The rigid USSR system could not reform. In China, Economics has led to double reformation, backward and forward. So they've gone back to the old rigid system. Gorbachev wanted reform. That's when the USSR broke. Perestroika and glasnost. He was running a Stalinist model, but they wanted a Leninist, run on Leninist principles. What is Leninism and what is Stalinism is something which we will talk of another day. Xi Jinping did something similar because he went to state control, completely state controlled system. Now the personalized politics stunted institutions, whether it was an era of Gorbachev, whether it's the era of Andropov died. or go back to Brezhnev, or you go back to the time of Stalin. Okay, everything was personalized. China also is everything is personalized in the name of Xi Jinping. Inefficient government-owned factories could not produce what the people wanted, and what people not needed was not produced. Are you heading there? Whatever the government factories and the private factories are producing, the people are not consuming in China. Something almost eerily similar in USSR. Supply did not match demand. There is oversupply. Supply is in oversupply in the Chinese model. Soviet Union could not service its debt. There's a debt bill in China, which is being addressed through this government bond business. The bond bubble, I don't know where it will burst. And the USSR had an over militarized economy. The Chinese are emulating it. So you look at it, you compare it with the USSR, you compare it with Japan. Very, very, very similar. You look at the political economy of China over ages. Mao started the Great Revolution and the Great Leap Forward. Deng Xiaoping brought the one child policy. All three of these were bad for China. Xi Jinping, in my opinion, has done the great leap forward with his Z thought, BRI, state control, common prosperity, zero COVID, dual circulation, crackdowns, two establishes, two safeguards, security, technology. Same man said China can switch its economy by 2035. In 2020, he said this. And now he talks of black swan and grey rhino events. And he's aiming for a GGI, Global Governance Initiative, based on his Sinocentric order, where he wants the world to open its doors to China, while China keeps its doors firmly shut for the world. They don't want to import from you, they want to export to you. One way. I hope you people like this whole story. I hope you like this whole story, which I've said. If you liked it, please press the like button and subscribe to Gunner Shot. And also join as members. A few words about the geopolitical economy of China. There's a paradox. Where China has influence, it has no markets. Global South. Where China has markets, it has no influence. USA, EU. Opposite. Geopolitical tensions split the global North against the global South. Geopolitical tensions also pit it against the global North. The global South is indebted to China and it will remain so. It can't repay its loans. Look at Sri Lanka, look at Pakistan. You might own Gwadar, what will you do with it? You might own Hambantota, what will you do with it? You can't lick it. There is business of decoupling, relocation, friendshoring, de-risking. And it is already, and now robotics and technology add to that. You're getting lower jobs. That's why the youth unemployment is huge. There is chip war and tech sanctions. Very interesting. While China is overproducing, the rest of the world is suffering from inflation, high inflation. If the rest of the world is suffering from high inflation, why will they buy Chinese goods? If they buy Chinese goods, the Chinese goods are being sold at a loss, deflated. The inflation in the rest of the world should actually have helped China. It's not. So this is what I had to say. You might find it interesting. You might not believe it. Okay? You might not believe it. But these are facts. So I leave it at that. Take your own call. I'm very clear that Japanification of China is en route at a pace which uh, is happening. A lot of people, my guess is, are refusing to acknowledge the fact that China is Japanifying. You know why? Because people have invested into China. They want to get out of it somehow. And they are hoping for something else. My guess is it will not happen. Fine. So I have done with what I had to say today. So I'll take a few questions. Yeah, Amitesh, good evening. Jai Hind, Monkey King, Jai Hind. Tarun Kem, Jai Hind. Yeah. So World Bank predicted China will grow at 4. I have no problem. You say what you want, believe what you want. You believe the World Bank, you believe, don't believe PR Shankar, I couldn't care a damn. This is my assessment based on facts. You go by the World Bank, I have no issue. Yeah. IMF increased the GDP of China from 15.1 trillion to 18.2 in a single year. Is it all fake? What's happened? It is fake. I have no doubt about it. Why did Japan agree to self-implode its economy by agreeing to the Plaza Accords in the 80s? It had no choice. It had no choice. And somewhere down the line, Trump is doing something similar. Seems this decade is also a lost decade for Japan. Probable. I'm not this thing. Yeah, now my ace pessimist, Amitesh Bera is the ace pessimist. Okay. I've never, he will only look at the wrong side of India and look at the right side of China. I think you need to get your eyes tested. Akash, good evening. Yeah, true GDP growth is measured in dollars. Yeah, that's okay. I'm not saying anything else. You can measure anything anywhere, but the fundamental thing is China has dead GDP. Sir, you can use Indian app instead of PowerPoint. My dear friend, you should understand before you talk without knowing what I'm doing. I hope you know that the Indian app is not working. You try it. It's not working. Okay. So don't come out with your nationalist agenda. You should be realistic in what you're suggesting. You've been saying this for quite some time. Yeah, Plaza Accords weren't the only reason. Also, Japan took saturation as Japan mainly achieved high industrialization. In Taiho line of most Japan is semi-urban. Yeah, I agree with what you're saying. I said two reasons, main reasons. I didn't go into nitty-gritties. Yeah. Yeah, is it that since a lot of US companies have big investments in China, the IMF with the US control doesn't want to show bad GPA? Yeah, you hit the nail on the head. Because in all their investments will go for a toss. They're worried actually. Japan invented transistor semiconductor chips in contain billions of transistors. Despite losing the war, they were on course to become the largest economy. Yeah, I agree. In India, stark issue is that China, Japan, major industrialize in linear east line, and India takes a model which takes whole India. And I will see how it happens in India. Yeah, allegedly the CEOs of Toshiba, Mitsubishi, and Hitachi had to go on American TV and apologize for their own success. The world isn't free from yeah, a lot of things are going bad. Okay, yeah. Last 3 months since Trumpomania, S&P is up 8%, Shanghai Stock Exchange 10%, Sensex down 2%. Trump. That's okay. This is a periodic flutter. We are looking at long term. We are looking at 10 for 15 years. Trump won't do much beyond the point. Yeah, other countries think that if India is allowed to prosper, they would become another China-like country. I agree with you. That's the problem. China seems to be doing quite well. Japanification with technology would be a blessing for India. I don't agree. Why are they producing when they see that they are unable to make profit? They don't have a choice. If they don't produce, there will be more joblessness and it will collapse. Yesterday's digression to the topic of aid to civil authorities was pretty eye-opening detail. Yeah, okay. I must say, Wang Dan podcast on Hindustan Times is just amazing. Yeah, you seem to be having a lot of time. Yeah. Yeah, theaterization of armed forces. Yes, we'll do it one of these days. Mm. X is filled with China lovers. I agree with you. People are not getting married, maybe not be correct. They might not have enough populace falling in. Vishnathan, don't assume that everything in China is hidden and everything in China is gold. Okay, it is not. Hmm. Jay Shankar commented China will give a run for it. Fine, let it give a run. I couldn't care a damn. I am only showing you what is the fact. It's up to you to believe or not. Amitesh, you should go to China and start talking about India from there. You'll be a hit out there. Yeah. So thrash loss plus West aping woman India wahi log la yeah. I agree with you. We shouldn't ape others. We should be what we are. Does Japanification mean GDP will be stagnant? It will be. Look, Japan. I am very sure the Chinese GDP is contracting, but they will show it as expanding. That's it. How do you think we are not in that? No, we are not far away. Don't worry about it. What was waiting for this session, sir? Thanks, wonderful presentation. Very true. This was discussed by economists, country at risk of Japanification, and yeah, there's a problem. We should know. Could China save its economy, make a deal with? They can do nothing, यार भाई लोग नहीं है तो क्या करोगे? General on comedy gold with respect to Amit. Yeah, what can you do? अभी लड़ते रहोगे कि चाइना के लिए लड़ते रहो भाई हमें क्या फर्क पड़ता है हम तो वही हम I am very clear in my thought of China. China is a spent force. It has got some residual capability, and that's it. And that is being shown in the way they are behaving. You know, बिल्ली बिल्ली देखा कभी बिल्ली को देखो किस तरीके से घूमता है बीगी बिल्ली को ठीक है चाइना भी आजकल बीगी बिल्ली है ओके सो yeah, this is it. China becoming Japan is low, but China becoming Germany of World War II have high chances. China triggering the World War III. Sorry, they can't do it. Yeah, please understand, Raiku. They don't have people. You have to understand they don't have people. You guys haven't seen Chinese soldiers, okay? I've seen them at close quarters. They don't have people. They don't have the capability to start a World War III. See, the problem with China, the danger from China is the Communist Party. Understand, the Communist Party, it's not China as a country. When you study China, you have to understand there's a China of people. There's a China of people. There's a China of the Communist Party. The dangerous element is the China of the Communist Party. It's not the danger. The people are not dangerous. People तो पिस रहे हैं यार, चक्की है, वो पिस रहे हैं वो चक्की में. Okay. So I think we've done for the day. Thanks a lot for watching. Again, if you liked it, like the video. Don't like it, also still like the video at least. Okay, and subscribe to Gana Shot and well, join in as members. And I must thank all of you for having attended. Again, like yesterday, this might be a little bit of a dry topic, but I think we need to be putting our fingers on the button. Don't put your finger on the button. One day you'll be staring at something which you don't know. Right? It might happen. We might not. China might just escape Japanification. But the effects will be there. Right? With this, thanks a lot. Good evening and Jai Hind to all of you.